Welcome to Radio OPAC. Radio OPAC is a division of Ohio Prison Arts Connection. OPAC connects people to the arts inside and outside of prison. My name is Catherine Roma, and I will be your host today. We welcome all of you, including our friends in correctional institutions in Ohio and other states, via our DVDs of the shows. The shows are also archived on YouTube. Our guests today are Ethan Hurd, co-artistic director, and Daniel Schlosberg, co-music director of Heartbeat Opera in New York City. Welcome, please, Ethan and Dan to Radio OPAC. Before we get started, let me remind you, there will be a live talk back following our 15-minute interview here today. The Zoom link will be posted in the comments section. So, Dan and Ethan, welcome to Radio OPAC. It's so great to see you. I just want to tell everybody that we were going to be seeing each other 1 week after things shut down. And the last time I was at London Correctional on, I will never forget it, Tuesday, the 10th of March, I was walking out and the chaplain said, you know, those people from Heartbeat Opera coming from New York City, that is a hotbed. And I don't think the Ohio prison, they're not gonna let them in. And so that was the first indication that I had. So I want you to tell everybody about the project. And I'll just say that you were bound 1 week after things closed down to come to work in Dayton with Hope Through Harmony at Hope Through Harmony Women's Choir, and in London Correctional with Ubuntu, and at Marion Correctional with Coogee. So let's jump in, and maybe you can share with everyone how the idea germinated in you to use men and women incarcerated to do the prisoners chorus, and then how it all evolved that you created your amazing production of Fidelio.
Thanks, Kathy. It's a pleasure to be with you and to talk with you. This project, Fidelio, and working with your choirs in particular, but all 6 prison choirs, has been a really life-changing, life-affirming, profound experience for me, and I know for Dan too. Fidelio is Beethoven's soul opera, and it was an opera I came across in grad school when I was studying to be a director. Our scenic design teacher, Ming-Cho Lee, a titan in the field actually, assigned this opera to all the set designers. So I saw about 8 set designs for Fidelio, and it really lodged itself in my head because the opera takes place in prison. And in 2017, in the summer of 17, we were looking for an opera to do together, and I was really interested in responding to Trump and making something beautiful and something about justice and the humanity of all of us. And this opera really spoke to that for me. And I knew I wanted it to be a contemporary American production. And in a meeting with Dan, I sort of raised this audacious question, you know, could we reach out to prison choirs? And Dan happened to know a prison choir conductor in Minnesota. So maybe I'll pass it over to Dan.
Thanks, Ethan. And I just want to say thank you, Kathy, for having us. It's truly a pleasure to be here. So we had the idea to do Fidelio. I think Ethan was kind of really just energized to do it at that time. He said, you know, this is the opera for right now. And we were just thinking, and I think I just remembered that one of my colleagues from grad school, her name is Amanda Weber, she studied choral conducting at Yale, and I just remember seeing that she had started a choir in Minnesota in a facility there, and she had done a TED Talk about it. So I just thought to reach out to her and say, we're thinking about doing this. We want to include, incarcerated people in this production in some way. We have Heartbeat is interesting because we always have these kind of budgetary and scale kind of constraints. And that's part of what we do, where we make opera for intimate audiences with very few players. I reduce the orchestra to 5 or 6 musicians. The cast is often under 10. And we, choir poses a big issue because, we perform in small spaces, 200-seat theaters in this case. And the issue here is that the Prisoners Chorus is central to the piece. Not only central, but the reason for this piece. I mean, it's the heart of the piece. It is like the most beautiful moment, and it just has so much. And one of the things that we were kind of contending with is past productions of Fidelio, especially in big opera houses, often portray the chorus, it's just a bunch of people with mud on their faces and with rags. And that is not the reality of, the carceral system in America. And, part of our mission is to bring opera into the 21st century and to present opera for American audiences of today. And so we were just very intent on how do we bring that into this production? How do we make this a reality? How do we make this production feel like it is 2018 and not, 1809? So I reached out to Amanda, and she, was so incredibly game, so incredibly positive and excited about collaborating. And she immediately mentioned your name, along with Mary in Iowa. And so we just reached out, Mary Cohen, and we reached out to, and then Kirk Carson in Kansas came up either through her, through you, or Mary. So we reached out, and we had this like lovely contingent of Midwestern choirs, and the one conversation led to another. And I was not totally aware of how broad this, how far-reaching choirs in prison were. And it was just incredible to me. Some of these had been going on for decades. Kirk's men over in Kansas, they've had, multiple directors, and they've sung the prison chorus from Fidelio before. Wow. So it was amazing to see. And then obviously some of yours, and this was all new to a lot of them, but it was incredible. So that's how we got hooked up with everyone. And then we visited in 2018 and recorded. We weren't able to visit Amanda's actually, and the Dayton choir, we weren't able to visit, right. But we were able to go in and record.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I remember being a terrible day weather-wise. You drove from New York, and oh my goodness, it was quite something. I wonder if you'd share something that you experienced during those visits, either in Ohio or Kansas or Iowa, that really took you and shook you or moved you to a different place.
Absolutely. I'll share that we flew to Iowa and then rented a car and drove to meet Mary at a coffee shop, and then went to rehearsal. And I remember checking in and putting our camera equipment through the X-ray machine. And actually the warden himself, Warden Jim, warmly welcomed us. And partway through rehearsal, I realized I'd forgotten something in the car, and I needed to leave and come back. And it was good that we went to this facility first, because they were sort of the most relaxed compared to some of the other facilities we eventually visited. But I remember walking out into the parking lot with a completely different understanding and appreciation for freedom and what incarceration means. And talking to some young guys and some old guys who had been there for so long and who knew they were going to be there for much longer. I know we spoke to someone, Kathy, in one of your choirs, who knew he would die in prison. And that is just a profound thing to be up close to and to see in someone's eyes and to just feel in the room. So that changed me, I think, forever. And I also just say that the letters we exchanged with the incarcerated singers were also these windows into individual people's experiences and what music means to them, what these German words mean to them, what singing together means. And that refreshed, I think, for me, something I often take for granted, which is like, oh, we make opera. But that actually it is a very deep, it satisfies a deep human need to connect and share and harmonize. And I think, singing in harmony together, I see it in your rehearsals, is such a nourishing experience, and something I believe in so strongly.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. No, I am glad that you had that experience with the looser prison in Iowa. That's amazing. So I just want to say, if you're joining us, we are Radio OPAC, and my guests are Ethan Hurd and Daniel Schlosberg, artistic directors of Heartbeat Opera in New York City. We invite you to join us after this interview for a live talk back with Zoom link in your comments section. So I am fascinated by the exhibit, Beaux-Arts, that's happening in Brussels. And it opened October 13th. Can you just tell us a little bit? I think it's incredibly exciting, and so did all of the people who read about it inside. So please share a little bit about this exciting event.
Sure. So I think last year, maybe this year sometime, timeline now is, I don't remember. We were approached by a curator at this museum in Brussels called Beaux-Arts. It's like a huge gallery that has a lot of exhibitions. And they had seen our production, heard about our production, and were putting together something for Beethoven's 250th anniversary, and wanted to include our production, and specifically the Prisoner's Chorus video that came out from this. So we started talking to them about how to put that in a gallery, and also that we felt very strongly that we wanted letters from that we had exchanged with some of the men and women to be displayed, as well as the names of everyone who is involved. So we kind of worked with them and at one point they took us through a virtual rendering of the exhibit. So we got to see the other rooms. Some of it's art from Beethoven. Some of it's very contemporary art that kind of remixes Beethoven. Some of it's displayed an old piano, and it just kind of all over the place. And we were just really honored that they found a room for this and for the voices of all of the incarcerated men and women involved with our production.
Wow, I did get the packet, I guess there were 12 pages in the file that you sent. I was able to copy it in color and get it to only one of the choirs at Marion. So they absolutely loved getting that and learning about it. You mentioned when we were talking before we went on air about a new project that you're doing, and I think maybe that would be a wonderful thing to talk about here.
I would love to talk about it. So the new project is called Breathing Free, a theatrical virtual song cycle. And it really came out of a desire and a need to respond not only to the pandemic, which is so powerfully affecting our carceral system and the folks inside, but also the Black Lives Matter movement. And as some of you know, our original production of Fidelio was seen through the lens of Black Lives Matter. Our protagonist was a Black Lives Matter activist, and the corrupt prison warden character who wrongfully incarcerated Stan, you kind of learn in the show, is a white supremacist, and that's one of the motivating factors for why Pizarro is incarcerating Stan. But we were supposed to be doing live performances of Fidelio this fall at the Met Museum in New York with Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, and we had some touring opportunities coming up in February. So we wanted to do, we will do a virtual project. And this is going to be a series of excerpts from Beethoven's Fidelio, alongside songs by Black composers and lyricists like Harry T. Burleigh, Langston Hughes, and Anthony Davis. So we'll see Florestan's aria in Solitary Confinement right up alongside Malcolm X's aria from Anthony Davis's opera. We want to look at the resonances between them. And it's an opportunity for Heartbeat to really walk the walk in terms of taking anti-racist action and hiring more Black artists and collaborators, and really sharing this magnificent work by Black artists that we haven't done yet. We have been focusing on, we now realize, the white Western canon, because we have been reinterpreting these classics. Right. And while we think there's great value in that, we also know we have a responsibility as now a more middle-sized company. We were the young scrappy company, but now we have more of a platform, and we want to educate ourselves and really learn about these amazing Black artists and their pieces and share them.
Wow, that's beautiful. That is so wonderful. Thank you. So each week on Radio OPAC, we have a moment of reflection, because we know that these engaged arts projects and performances capture transformative experiences that lift our spirits and touch us in powerful ways to enliven all of our days. So Ethan and Dan, please share some of what we're going to see in this excerpt of the Prisoner's Chorus.
Well, I hope what we'll share with you is a little bit of English dialogue that then introduces the Prisoner's Chorus. So our 90-minute adaptation of Fidelio featured new English dialogues. So you'll see a correctional officer talking to an administrator at the institution, and basically Leah, who's in disguise as a correctional officer, is persuading her colleague to let the incarcerated folks into the courtyard for a moment of fresh air. The prison has been on lockdown, but she wants to give the prisoners a breath of fresh air. So then you'll hear the voices of more than 100 incarcerated singers and 70 outside volunteer singers from 6 prison choirs in 4 states. And you'll see their faces in a music video that we created.
Yeah, so originally the chorus is just for men's voices, but because we had so many incredible choirs with all types of voices, I did a little rearranging. And as you remember, I gave each choir a little excerpt to learn that we then stitched together with the help of our sound designer, Kate Marvin, and created this version of Beethoven that not only has men's voices, actually hear them at the beginning, just men's voices as Beethoven wrote it, and then as we go on, you start to hear female voices and then a full choir at the end.
I can't tell you, on that last rehearsal we had with Ubuntu, we were nailing that 4-part harmony that you gave us, and they were so excited that you had assigned that to them, that and they were getting it. It was so fantastic. I was walking on air, and I was actually going in there the next day to do some more work and to really get it, because you were coming the next week. Well, anyway, everyone, thank you to you both, and please everyone join us immediately following this. Click the link on the comments section so we can talk about all of this live. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you.
There you are.
Just getting some fresh air.
Mind if I join you?
Not at all.
Is some
about these men behind bars. We haven't let some of them out in the yard for weeks.
The warden took away privileges because of the riot in the cafeteria.
And you know as well as I do, it was just a fist fight between a few of the inmates. A lockdown is extreme. Besides, people need sunlight and air. Cooping them up is not going to help anything.
It's not up to us. The warden's in charge.
But you are the deputy major's daughter. You could pop the lock.
No, I can't. What are you saying?
Look, your dad is with the warden now. They usually meet for at least an hour. What if we let some of the men out into the yard for just a few minutes? They're not livestock, Marcy. They deserve better.
What about the other guards?
If you say the warden ordered it, they'll trust you.
Honey, are you crazy? I can't risk my job like this.
They are people, Marcy. People who made mistakes. Some people whose only mistake was being poor, or...
Reed, I wish I could help you. I'm so sorry.
Please, do it for me.
Does this mean you're asking me out?
It depends.
Fine. 30 minutes. I'll make sure my dad doesn't come this way. Attention all guards. Cell block A, B, C, and D. The warden grants all inmates 30 minutes of outside rec in the yard starting now. Unlock automatic doors in blocks 135, 136, 137, 138, 139.
Do it today.